Good. How you been, man?
Super busy.
Yeah, I can tell.
New studio, so it's like
Wow.
got my other little chair there, so I can do my little
Yeah. So that's where all the guest speakers come and sit down where you do interviews?
yeah. Anytime I bring
Mhm.
anybody into studio to do an interview,
Yeah.
my last guy was Mr. Drake. He does homelessness issues in town. Like he goes and feeds the homeless people every Monday. He gets
Okay.
sandwiches donated to him. He used to be a homeless guy. And
Wow.
I was kind of digging into this homeless industrial complex problem that we have here in Anchorage. Um,
Yeah.
Seems like in the last 10 years, the homelessness level is just, skyrocketed up. So I started
It
doing,
wasn't bad when I was there. That's kind of crazy.
yeah,
I was there from 2016 to 2019.
it's really been, I want to say the last 8 years.
Wow.
Because I've
Interesting.
never seen them. But from talking with this guy, the numbers have never really changed. Just the way
Hmm.
we treated them changed. So
Hmm.
I started looking back, and you can go back and look at like in the last 5 years alone, we have spent like $1 billion on homeless people.
Where's that money going?
Where's the? That's exactly my point,
A
right?
$1 billion?
$1 billion, bro, for
Let me
3,000
j-
people.
so
Like
let me give you a little
5 years.
comparison.
That's 5 years for 3,000 people, give or take. Let's just say let's
God.
keep that number 3,000 total people, right? Because it's between like 2,700 and 3,500. They don't have an exact count. Okay, so let's just for fair numbers, 3,000 people. Okay,
That is crazy. A
they're spending more
billion dollars for 3,000
they're
people.
spending more than $109,000, give or take. It's like 107 or $109,000 a year for homeless per person in the state of Alaska. And we still have 700 plus people out on the streets, 50, 60 people dying every winter.
See,
But
that's another thing too. Like, how much of those homelessness are like, mental health issues, Because if you're just a sane person, nobody wants to be homeless, you
actually,
know?
that's not true. That's not true at all.
Like, some people just generally just don't care. They just want to be homeless.
So we have natives up here, right? They make up,
Right.
I think, like 35 or 40% of the homeless population, which is really weird because when I went out in public, okay, when I drive around, I can see native people,
Yeah.
right? Then I went to these camps and I actually handed out sandwiches with them on Monday.
And where is this? Is
All
it
over.
in Anchorage?
Yeah, they're just scattered all over. I got some behind this hotel over here, some are back in this little road over here, some are
Mhm.
across the street, they're all over. Anchorage
Mhm.
is the Anchorage is a 15-minute city. And not for
Yeah,
being like a 15
very
minute,
small.
okay, of how we're like thinking of control and power, right? We
Yeah.
look like I can get anywhere in town 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what side of town you live on, bro. You know what I mean? Like I can get to we have one road out on both
Yep.
north and
Yep.
south,
Yep.
right? And you can get anywhere in town from Muldoon to south side to west side to hilltop down to midtown, Muldoon, even out
Yep.
going out
Twitter. Yeah.
where it's like 20-minute drive. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's nothing. That's everything. So you can do anything and everything within under an hour. There's like
Yeah.
if you don't show up in Anchorage for something, it's kind of disrespectful because like everybody knows, like, bro, you're 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
You had to be here at 6. You're
Yeah, it's true. Unless you're from like Eagle River or something, or Vasilla, that's a different story.
yeah, completely different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about? Like we are
Yeah.
in this city. I mean, this is the only city. Also, we're very culturally diverse and
Yeah.
really just a ton of different cultures here. Bunch of
Yeah.
like over 119 languages are spoken just in our schools. Okay,
Yeah.
why we got problems.
One of the things I when I was there, I was so surprised to see how many Nepali people were there.
Nepali, are you calling like are those
They're actually from Nepal.
oh, Nepal. Okay, so
Yeah.
what would that make you? Napoleon. I guess I never even knew
You're
that was
just Nepali. You're just Nepali. They kind of look like they look like a mix of
Samoans.
like an yeah, Chinese and Indian person. That's what they look like.
Oh, so
So there's some you probably couldn't even tell the difference. You probably think they're native, but they're actually just Nepali people. Like I know what they look like because they would migrate from Nepal to come to Punjab for work for better opportunities. So we had a lot of people. So we just had this name. So he's Nepali,
okay.
kind of like here in the U.S. Oh yeah, I'm Hawaiian. Hawaiian. Hawaii is the same country, so but Nepal is a different country. So you could just tell that this dude is from Nepal. I saw a lot of them, which I don't know why they were there. One of them told me there was some kind of program they found through hotels that they can just come to Alaska. Like hotels would pay for these. There's some kind of visa um, that they would use to
What
come to
a
the
work
U.S.
visa?
Yeah, it was a work visa, but it had something. It was some, how they have H-1B visa,
Yeah.
right? This one was a whole different category. Um, and they can come and stay. I don't know how it worked, but it's like they come live here for a season and move back. The next year they come here, live here for a season, and they can just keep doing that over and over and over again.
So a lot of our construction industry, our tourism industry, fishing, tour guides, you would think that those were jobs that were taken by Alaskans or people that live
Yeah,
there, right? Like yard keeping, yard cleaning, construction workers, electric people, right? Private, and I'm talking private companies. I'm not talking
yeah,
unions, right? Because
yeah.
unions are going to, put
Be
whoever,
citizen,
show up. So you're basically a resident, when
right?
working in a union in town, you're probably a resident, but you're still doing other job like construction, wireman, building, labor union, right?
Yeah.
Have all these different unions, and I would say the majority of them are probably Alaskans. They're not shipping in.
Okay.
What I see is the smaller electrical framers, the sheetrockers, the painters,
Yeah.
landscapers, even the tourism workers that come up here for tourists, right? They're actually imported workers. We import if you just take every industry in Alaska, everything,
Yeah.
bam, everything. I would say that the oil companies import a lot of their work, even though they claim, have to have a quota of Alaskans.
Yeah.
Say that you're looking at 80% of the majority of the companies up here ship in their workers because they work in a hotel environment. They're
Mhm.
excluded. There's no cities around them. So when you're going up to work in Prudhoe Bay, in the North Slope, or in some of these different oil field platforms, you're really just in a mini city they brought out to that area. So you're not really
Yeah.
around anybody. Bring the work in, you do the work, you bounce home. Okay, that money doesn't stay in Alaska. So anytime that we import our workers
Mhm.
in, okay, you're actually exporting out revenue with your
Yeah.
GDP. And
Yeah.
Alaska, for the last what 3 to 5 years, has been increasing our import of workers by 10 to 20% across every industry. So
Yeah.
as the residents of Alaska move out of Alaska, you're moving out the wealthier people are moving out because poor people
Yeah.
can't afford to move. So you're not moving out of the state if you're poor or middle class income, And right now, I'm thinking it would cost you between 10, $15,000 to possibly move out of state, uh, and that's if you probably drove. If you're flying out entire families, and that could cost 10 grand in itself.
Yeah.
You're moving out.
It
Um,
kind of made me think of, how you mentioned that how they're not putting the money back into Alaskan economy. They're sending that money home or they're just taking the money back home. Made me think of, how London is right these days. You can't even recognize because the actual people from England, they don't even live there. You go there, it looks like you're in the Middle East. So that's what's happening in London back in, I don't know, probably 3, 4 decades ago. And The people from India as well, India, Pakistan, predominantly Pakistan. They were working, but they were sending all that money back home to Pakistan. So they were not putting the money back into London's economy. So they did a change in their visa, like, hey, you can bring your families here, so you don't have to send the money back home. And they did the change in that visa, and now it's been overused by a lot, and now you can't even recognize England. It just made me think of that, but you can continue. I'm really interested in what you were saying.
Well, that's the problem we all face now, right?
Yeah.
If you have a state that is breeding in the manufacturing work and stuff, what's happening, and even then, this is my whole problem right now. Okay, because I'm like waking up to this stuff, and you know me, I'm like, I want to ask questions. I should be allowed to ask questions in a free nation, regardless of whatever the topic is. I want to be able to ask whatever questions that I feel pop in my head. I don't need a reason for them. They just pop in my head. I'm like, all right, let's ask a question. So my question is, are jobs an equal replacement for manufacturing and resource development? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Like,
So
are jobs equal replacement for
wealth, financial freedom.
What do you mean by that? Like, can we replace?
Yeah. So let's take India, Taiwan, Japan coming in with the natural gas pipeline in Alaska. I'm not sure where Taiwan is going to build their chip factory, right? But they're just bringing in a company so they can bypass tariffs to make a product in our town, right? Our country,
Right.
A manufacturing product. Look at all the other companies Trump's bringing back from foreign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I haven't heard anybody actually explain to me, like a child, okay,
Right.
this complicated stuff we're talking about, right? Like none of it.
Yeah.
Easy, but I feel like this question is so easy. You should be able to explain it to me like I'm a child.
Right.
Where if a foreign entity like India, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, China, Canada, Mexico, all come into our countries with manufacturing that own these companies, is that money staying in America?
I see.
Are we just giving people jobs in the elite
Right. Yeah, that's
of
a good
long-term
question.
wealth when these companies could in 3, 5, 10 years shut doors
Yeah.
out, even 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't win off of that. The American people don't win off of that. How can we export energy? Okay, now this is a tricky one too, right? Because everybody talks about energy costs. We only talk about gas for your car,
Yeah.
right? Let's think about that. Let's be real about that. Does anybody ever talk about the gas that heats their house, the utility cost of electricity, the kilowatt hours that are coming out that cost you? Okay, where where all this energy is coming from? But we want to export energy before Americans have free energy or such a cheap amount of energy and stable energy and an overabundance of energy. Because how can you breed and build and tell people to go out and do more when there's not enough more out there to take?
Yeah.
As far as energy, right? They're talking about how we need to jump the grid up 200-300% to be able to handle AI capacities in the next 2 to 5 years. So how much grid does that cost us? But yet America is pushing still, even under Trump's mandates, you have states that are pushing windmill farms, solar panel farms, right? They're redoing your power grids, okay, the actual power lines to be able to handle intermittent energy from the intermittent energy providers. Okay, instead of going with stable energy, hydro, coal, clean coal, which is all possible, but we've stopped the studies on it. So if you look at when, I guess BP and them were back in like early '90s, we were working around with like this stuff called liquid coal, where they were liquefying the coal process to make it cleaner. We were in this huge thing saying, "Oh, bam, you can't do this." Environmentalists went after them, right? And then they started having this push for we need green energies. So they came up and started pushing the studies on solar and wind. And what do we continue
Yeah.
to use on? Solar and wind. When we need to be focusing on cleaner, more productive, efficient hydropower. Imagine if
Yeah.
the last 50 years,
Or even nuclear. I mean, nuclear power too.
nuclear,
Then
they're going to claim it's not safe. That's a whole narrative push. Okay.
it's yeah, that thing, the whole thing. Yeah, it's what's sad is because America, all the developed countries in the world, they got to where they are today because they used nuclear, right?
Yep.
And now when it's time for like other smaller developing countries like India or many other smaller countries in like Africa, they want to jump on board and start using nuclear, all of a sudden nuclear is bad.
Well, it's because we killed the science. We had one incident, right? We had Chernobyl, right? And
Yeah.
then you had
Japan.
Japan incident, and they looked at it like, okay, and I get the issue here, right? So if we talk about it, they basically started an engine they didn't know how to turn off. Nobody, I mean, that's just a simple way from what I can understand. I'm not an expert in any of this shit. You know what I mean? I try to learn the basics so I can understand having a conversation with someone that isn't,
Yeah.
because that's how you can understand them is if you know the
Yeah.
basics. If you don't know the basics, when they're talking, even if they start explaining the basics to you, you're going to be lost. So I'm
Right.
looking like, okay, cool. If you break it down basically, nuclear power, they started it too early, right? They said, hey, we got an engine, we got a power source, let's start it up. Boom. They turned the battery on, turned the key, flipped the switch, and then they were like, well, shit, this is going to last forever. We don't know how to turn it off, nor did they think about a plan to turn it off,
Yeah.
right?
So they kept using old tech, never ever thought about replacing it. Meanwhile, they just started.
They thought that they had the epitome, right? That
Right.
they had to maintain because they wanted a power source that would last forever, right? That
Yeah.
was the goal, is that they knew they built these places that were going to maintain power for not just 50 years, but for 250 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like they thought that this power source and stuff was going to continue to push on, but then they didn't calculate how much waste was going to come into it, how to,
Yeah.
like they knew there would be some, but they really didn't study that. Whereas if you
Yeah.
imagine if we spent, like I said, the last 50 years studying and enhancing hydrocarbons, which is a study they've stopped. They don't do any real new advanced studies on how we could have cleaner burning hydrocarbons, which is the whole problem that causes the CO2,
Mhm.
in the states and the countries, right? And you have China burning and burning coal like nobody's business right now. Okay.
That's another thing too, like the whole narrative about that America is the one we have to do everything about environment. Meanwhile, nobody's protesting countries like India or China. They're just polluting
We are.
like
Look how
crazy.
clean we are already. Right? We're already really clean.
We're
Really
like
clean. Okay, but then you're looking across the board and we're like, okay, Americans can't have free energy. For example, in Alaska, okay, they're in the process of raising our kilowatts from 22 cents, which if you think about that is astronomical compared to anywhere else in the United States. Okay. People are paying cents on the kilowatt and we're into the having to toss out quarters. Right? You're paying
what's
pennies.
what
And we're
company do you have in Alaska for your home for electric?
you have the Matsu Power Company, and then you have Chuyak Electric Power Company. We used
Have
to have,
they
but they sold it for
have
a
they
billion
reached
dollars.
out have they reached out to you about the smart meters at all?
Smart meters on your house. I don't know if I would even want
You
or
okay?
allow.
Yeah, no, trust me, you don't. So we have NISAG here in New York, and so I heard about them replacing just people's old meters with smart meters, and they don't ask you whenever you're not home. They're just gonna come and replace it, and then they hook something on. They're supposed to ask you, but they don't, and they hook the thing like, hey, smart meters. It's gonna give us more tell us more efficiently like exactly how much you're using. So I saw they did that. I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous, but they already did it. I want to see the change in my electric bill. But it used to be like 62 and $80. My electric bill went up to like $250 a month.
Oh yeah,
And
that's what I'm talking about. They're raising the electric cost, right? So just think about this. This is happening in New York right now. Okay, your electric cost for your energy, it's not your gas. Okay, fuck talking gas prices. Okay, like let's
yeah,
just everybody's that's their only concern. Okay, so it's like let's take that off the table altogether. Okay, who cares about the gas prices? Okay, Americans should care about three things. Okay, how much energy they have coming through their state, right? So if your state is using 400 megawatts, okay, if you want to increase, expand, or have an opportunity in your state to grow, you have to raise that by double. So your state should be planning on how to make from 400 megawatts a year to 800 megawatts a year. Okay, first off, if
yeah,
your state's not planning that, they're failing you. All right,
yeah,
Alaska failing us right now in that they want to renew all these renewable energies, right? And they're going to go ahead and say, all right, we're going to add another 100 megawatts onto the grid this year. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, we have a 40 megawatt wind farm over here. We have an 80 megawatt, solar panel farm over here. But then when you actually run through and do the numbers, and they're like, okay, the windmill plan is really only going to give you about 13%. So instead of 40 megawatts, you're going to get 13,
yeah,
right? Then over here for the sun, the solar panels, they're going to go ahead and say, well, we can get 80 megawatts. And what they're going to do is they're going to get all 80 megawatts in the summer because year-round light at a point in time when nobody's using energy.
yeah.
Energy consumption in the summertime,
Goes down way too much. Yeah,
nobody's using power for their house. Like most people turn their heat off, they turn their natural gas off. So you're not really spending unless you're cooking with the stove, and even
right.
nothing, right? But with our natural gas and our electricity costs, they're going to take our kilowatt hours from 22 cents to 36, and they're going to raise it up in 5% increments. So that way you don't really notice it. And then if they raise those rates up while we're in summer, you're not going to ever notice them until that first bill hits this winter when you have to turn your heat on. That first week that you turn your heat on, that next bill, people are going to
Yeah,
your mind's gonna blow because, like you said, you're gonna be like, "Man, I thought we were having cheaper energy. We're exporting energy right now in New York. Why is my bill going up?" Okay, this is what I've been trying to get people to wake up to and see when I talk about energy and ESG and all of this stuff. Is like this is happening to us right now. This is why you have to get active local. You need to pay attention to the policies. We have another policy, Senate Bill 120, that's getting implemented or it's
see,
going.
most people. This is where I feel like this kind of format of media is great because most people don't read any of these things. Like the bill, nobody, like, even I bet you politicians don't most of the time, minus a few things here and there. They're not even reading this. You telling me they read this fat bill that they want to approve and they know exactly everything that's what's going on in that bill? Um, yeah,
I'll just read you my little thing about it if I want to educate some people. All right. Senate Bill 120 is cloaked as a noble response to a so-called climate emergency. This threatens to saddle our state with a bloated new commission obsessed with slashing CO2 emissions, emissions that amount to a laughable 0.1%. Okay, so we're creating a new government agency, okay, commission,
4.1.
oversee. Okay, but how much money does that cost to start up? You know, uh, this is just a guise. So the bill is introduced by Senator Elvie Gray Jackson. She's on the Senate State Affairs Committee for Alaska, and she's pushing this committee response to virtue signal, in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
Greenies and the rest of the Democrats there that we're environmentalists, and it's like, well, you're not really environmentalists when, again, we don't have affordable power, we don't have affordable infrastructure, and then two, the cost. Okay, how much cost have we spent in the last 50 years building the infrastructure that we had that worked, that was stable? Trillions of dollars.
yeah.
Okay, and it works. It just needs to be upgraded, refitted, repurposed.
No, they don't want to build that. They just want to put
Right?
money into these crazy social
Just
programs.
Yes, and that's why you got sustainable development, which is Marxist for deconstruction and
Yep.
degrowth.
That's exactly what's happening right now.
I'm the crazy dude with the tinfoil hat over here, screaming numbers at people, and that's what, I guess that's the problem that we have in America right now. It's
Yeah.
I don't like to us, to me, to you. I feel like the only thing that you have a kid on the way, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to be able to afford a kid when they are
I know.
continuously squeezing your neck at every
Yeah.
turn for a service that should be a public service? Your water goes up, they poison your water. They charge you for
Do you have fluoride filter, by the way?
yeah, I have filtered water up here. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
I don't drink out of
I
the
do want to get a well, I used to have Berkey, those Berkey little filters that it'll take out the fluoride out of the water. I want to get one of those before my kid comes in about a month and a half.
Ooh,
Uh,
it's coming.
yeah.
You excited? Scared?
Well, I am very excited, but like you just put it in your words, like our kid coming on the way, and now it's just not just about me. Now it's just another human that I'm bringing into this world. So more responsibilities that I have, not just bringing in the income, but also the things that you're involved in. And I think when you become a father, you need to start be aware what is really going on. So like me and my wife for past 3-4 months now, we've just been deep diving all these vaccines. Like every 5 seconds, you get an email on a paper like, "Hey, these are the vaccines." I'm like, what is this? Why is this? Why I need this?
Yep.
And then you read more and you realize like how it used to be like maybe 5 vaccines a child would get, right, for the
Mhm.
whole scope of his life. Now it's like 174 to 214 since 2008. Like, what is going on? I don't.
I grew up in
It's
85.
just ridiculous.
Yeah, I grew up here in 85. And when I was born, I don't even remember seeing we used to have like these little books you open up, had all your shots in it, right? For you could go
Yeah,
play sports. And I
yeah,
literally only had like 4 or 5 shots on it. That was it.
yeah.
That was it.
Yeah,
And
they give you like polio. There was measles and like
I was
tetanus shot and a few
you had to
others.
have a PDF file. You know what I mean? Because it's so big. It's like
Dude, it is ridiculous. So just and not only that, they also want my wife, her, to get these series of vaccines, and then she refused them. She's been refusing them. She goes and asks like, "Why do I need it?" They're like, "Oh, it's so you don't have this infection." Like, what do you mean? How am I going to get this infection? When was the last time? I don't even know what it was. She looked it up. The last time we had that kind, it wasn't even an epidemic, it was like we had cases of that thing, it was back in the 1930s. So like, why do I need to take this thing that doesn't exist,
mm-hmm.
right? And so she's been refusing all of them. I'm like, yeah, no.
It's hard to
And
argue with them when they
it
changed
is.
the vaccines first off, right? And
Yeah,
I think we had a conversation before. If we can't agree on the definitions of words, how can we even have dialogue?
yeah,
Really, so it's like you're arguing with a brick wall when you're arguing with these physicians about stuff because
yeah.
they're coming from their point and they're stuck on that point. They're never going to move off that point.
Well, nothing too, because so she was reading about this doctor who, he was a doctor, licensed and everything, and he loved doing studies. So he started doing these studies on a series of patients that he would get. And in the studies, he found that his patients whose babies got this particular vaccines, they developed autism or, they were on the spectrum because of that. And he sent that study to the board, the doctor's board or whatever. They threatened him. They're like, "Hey, if you're gonna publish this, you're gonna lose your license." And then he was like, "Okay," so he didn't publish it, but then he wouldn't force his patients to take particular vaccines. Like he wasn't forcing them. And then every time he does that, he also have to report everything to the board of doctors. And then they threaten him again, like, "Hey, they need to take this vaccine. If your patients are not taking these vaccines, you have to basically tell them to go find a different doctor or you're going to lose your license. He's like, no, I can't do that. I can't push my patients to take these vaccines that they don't want to take. Eventually, he ended up losing his license. So he's like, okay, well, I lost my license and you didn't let me publish my study. Now that I had nothing to lose, I'm just going to publish the study. So he went on, he did the intensive research, and he published a study about all these vaccines. It's out there. I can send you a link. My wife, who read his book and everything. I feel like most of doctors, they either are, totally delusional into believing that all now, I'm not saying every vaccine is bad, right? But some of them are just so delusional to believe that every single of one of these vaccines are working. And I feel like many of them are just so afraid to even say anything because they know if they do say anything, they're going to lose their license.
Well, you have to
that's
talk
another
about therapeutics also, right? That's what if you listen to RFK right now, he doesn't want to, and that's where everybody gets him all wrong. Okay, they're all like, he's anti-vax. No, he's saying you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but you need to be given the choices. Okay,
Right.
You need to be given the choices that there's 200 vaccines out here. Okay, but then every one of these vaccines has a therapeutic alternate.
Yeah.
Right? You have a choice because that's what our ancestors did for what? Tens of thousands of years, bro.
Yep.
Okay, they all survived. How is it now in 2025 we can't survive without getting in the jab, bro?
Yeah.
We didn't have needles back in the day. Okay, if God wanted us to get poked that many times, He would have gave us a little orifice, where we could insert needles. Okay, I don't have any orifice needle size on me. Okay, and I feel like we just need to get back to nature, bro. Like I get the science. I don't trust the science no more. So you're gonna have to, for all the time that we've pushed to trust the science, it was really quick to kill it.
Dude, the same thing.
years.
When people are like, the same people who said trust the science have lost all credibility when they start saying men can get pregnant. Like, all right.
But how do we get back to that? Because we do need to get back to trusting the scientific method so we can get real results, right?
Right.
If you want to be real about it, we really need to get back to unbiased science, science, real science, not
science, not a political science.
Yeah, not political science where it's like, hey, if you give me $500,000, okay, I can prove to you without a doubt that these male mice can get pregnant. Like that's the stupid shit, right? All these sciences were skewed. They never went in to say, can we find the truth about this?
Yeah.
Like abstract, sitting back, 30,000 foot view. Let's look down on this and actually see if this is actually something that benefits us, right? The non-benefits us. The problem is all the science that could have or would have or should have benefited us in the last 100 years has been hidden or stopped or taken from us.
Or they don't even just was a few months ago. This is prior to when. Well, no, this is after Trump won. There was this study. It was like really extensive study that was done by a leftist doctor. You don't need a study to prove this, but they did a study to prove it wrong that transgenderism is a mental health illness, right? Mm-hmm. In the study, she ended up proving that it is a mental health illness, but she then killed the study. She didn't post the study. And then one of her colleagues who works on the study with her ended up not leaking the study, but she leaked it to one of the news report like, hey, she proved it that it's a mental health illness, but now she doesn't want to post the study. But you remember looking at that at all? When it came out, I think it might have been in January. I don't know. So that's another thing too. Like they only publish studies that only benefit themselves to make even more money for themselves.
100%. And that's what we need to get away with. If we want to get
right
in this country, okay, one, you have an uphill battle that, I feel like you're going to be bringing on with your kid coming up is education, okay? We're 40th in 40 countries ranked. So if you take 40 of the best ranked countries in the world, okay, we are 40th in education, okay? 40th out of 40 countries, bro. Wrap your head around.
That's insane. That is
Wrap your head around that. And then Alaska, I don't even know how bad New York is, but
Oh my
Alaska,
God.
we're 49th out of 51 states. So
That's
we're 40th in
really-
the entire planet, nation, country wise. They rank the top 40,
That's
countries in
insane.
education. Okay. And then if you look at the other graph, it will say how much do you pay per student. Okay. And guess where America is at?
Probably the highest.
Number one, baby.
Oh my
Most
God.
money into education, bro. We put the most money into teachers. We put the most money into administration and education curriculum than anywhere else on the planet. And we're 40th in all the countries. And then Alaska spends the most. I think we're like third or second in the entire, or we might even be first.
See,
We're up-
but the teachers and these universities, they're not teaching anything. They're teaching them to become an activist, to, oh, let's burn down this system.
That's just grade school, bro. Hey, that's just grade school. Those statistics are just in middle school and high school. Those aren't even hitting college
The
level.
colleges, I can't even remember how bad the college is. I
Like,
mean,
think about how bad that is when your kid's in kindergarten. Okay, and you're going.
are you homeschooling, by the way?
Am I homeschooling? My kids are grown and raised.
Oh,
They're out
wow.
now.
Okay. Man, you look really
I got
good for your age.
Yeah, I got 2 serving, and the rest are still going through college or doing
Okay.
internships.
Did they do homeschooling or they were?
Some of them did, like the private school,
Okay.
charter school route, and
Okay.
well, charter school is still a private school or a public school, right? It's just a community builded,
Right.
public school.
Okay.
And I had two of them went to a public school, because mixed family race, multiple moms, multiple dads.
Yeah.
We have the Frankenstein family of families.
Okay.
Started off super young, with children. So kind of like all over the aspect, I got 2 baby mamas. My wife has a baby daddy, 2 baby daddies.
Wow.
So it was like we started off young, had some problems, and sort of just met, and we were like, bam, worked out together. Been with my wife 18 years now.
Wow. What do your kids and your wife think of your work, like in the media line now?
Oh, nobody cares, bro. Yeah,
No, I'm sure nobody cares. Like, what do they think? Like,
yeah, no, they don't really care. You know what I mean? They've known me as the dude that rants everywhere
yeah.
I go. I'm always
Yeah.
working with people. I see you in the gas station. We're pumping gas. I'm like, yo, bro, do you vote? No, I don't vote.
Hilarious.
Oh, you like higher rent prices? You like your products going up by 10%, 20%, 15% every year. You like
how's
taxes?
the Thanksgiving dinners for you?
Actually, don't do Thanksgiving dinners with me and my wife use that Thanksgiving time frame to actually go on a vacation. So normally,
Wow,
every Thanksgiving we go, and it's really cool because you would think like, oh man, like you're giving up Thanksgiving for your family to go on vacation, but it's like, bro, have you ever done it? Because if you've never done it, you can't hate on it.
You can't hate on it. Yeah, no, totally.
Anywhere you go, anywhere you go, any state, any place that you're like, I'm gonna go, nobody's there, bro. So
Dude, yeah, you're right. You're right.
I've been
Nobody's there.
5-star resorts, dude, and it's literally just like us and another
pricing
the same shit, and we're like, yeah, why deal with all the bullshit, all the drama, have to cook dinners, okay, when we can actually leave, go to a beach, and guess what? Only people at the beach,
that's
people
great.
over at this restaurant. We're the only people going to these, so
Yeah.
you can get whatever seats you want. You can get, and normally half the time the tickets are cheaper, because we might leave Thanksgiving Day,
Right.
show up, or head out on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Tickets are Thanksgiving Day, on Thanksgiving Day, so it's kind of one of those. I see my family all the time. We hang out, we have dinners, we talk on the phone, but if you want to leave the state of Alaska, it's not really going down to visit relatives. Like when you leave, you need a vacation. And there's a difference between like a family, vacation versus a real vacation. never had a
Yeah.
regulation, okay, where you didn't have any responsibilities, you didn't owe anybody an explanation,
Just
or
shut your brain off.
okay, you could just literally just do whatever you want for a week.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
serenity, bro.
How it made me think of another thing because have you been seeing all these conservative I don't want to say influencers, but people who just people like you and me who just like to talk and just have conversation with them. All all these crazy left wing people are doxing them and getting them swatted.
Yeah. I
What do you think of that? How do you like? Do you think about it? Like, are you concerned that maybe somebody might do that to you?
mm, no, not at all. I mean, they could. I mean, I really I mean, my house has got cameras, I got alerts, I got dogs. I would hear about it.
Yeah,
I'm not it would be hard sketched for them to come in and like just shoot first, you know.
yeah,
No weapon, no identify. They could come in and point their guns. They can come in and search the house. They can come, you know.
yeah,
Uh, I'm not like worried for my life, you know. Where
yeah,
like you have guns or like early in the morning and stuff, like they can come in. I have dogs. My dogs are gonna wake them up. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Be pitch black. You know when they come to the house and it's quiet, and then you knock on
yeah,
the door, you do something. My dogs wake up. It's gonna get loud, right?
yeah,
Necessarily going to think you're breaking in because I got cameras. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip my camera monitor on, boom, you know, and be like, oh, the cops are at the door. I'm
the
probably
cops are.
getting swatted.
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
yeah, most likely.
it's kind of like I'm probably getting swatted. They also, I've heard that if like you're worried about that, like in the swatting, you should call your local police department and talk
Interesting.
and just tell them, hey, I do podcasts. I'm a conservative. You know, I have a conservative view and a viewpoint
Yeah,
stance in America right now, and I do podcasts and X Spaces and radio shows and promote posts that push America first. You know, or
yeah,
America first agendas, and people might get offended by that. So just to let you know, if anybody calls in for a threat or something that's happened at my house, it's probably in retaliation to something that I said online.
yeah. That's a good idea because I mean, it actually got me worrying a little bit because I mean, I don't do this. I don't. I barely do this part time as much as I would love to do this, but I have work. You know, I go to work and
Mhm.
my wife's here, and it kind of got me worried. Like these people are just finding. I don't know how they do it. I'm guessing they somehow hack into and get people's IPs and find where they live.
Not hard.
Uh,
That's not hard.
how yeah. It's and then plus place where I work. It's the most woke place you can ever work at, and they I, I I don't ever bring anything up, but they know my views based off, some of the stuff I post on social media. So, and they're crazy. And some of the conversation they have, like outlandishly calling for like assassinations for
Crazy.
Elon Musk or Trump, like crazy stuff. And I'm like, what? I mean, they can just do that. They know where I live. They can just swatting is so easy. You just call the cops, like, hey, something is happening. That's a good idea.
Domestic terrorism. First off,
Yeah.
okay, these people should be arrested for hate crimes. For I mean, I don't even know if you want to call them hate crimes. I don't believe in like there might be hate crimes, but it's like that's like hate.
It's a crime.
It's
It's a crime.
like
Just a crime.
it's not a form of protest in any shape, form of they're pushing this as a protest, bro.
It's
That's
not a
fucking
protest.
no, this is fucking vandalism. This is
It's
arson.
terrorism. You're literally terrorizing people.
Yes. When Elon Musk can't go to his auto show and have a Tesla in the auto
No.
show because they
Yeah,
think,
in Canada.
okay, right? They think it is a threat, or will bring violence, okay, to the auto show just by allowing Elon Musk to have a Tesla there. We've failed.
That's terrorism. That's terrorism. That's like being afraid of like, hey, this area is prone to Al Qaeda, so let's not have Americans over here.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
literally what it is.
to me, it's kind of like you can't stop any of this stuff. First off, I'm not happy with the deportations. I am happy that we are deporting people, but not to the numbers that we're deporting people.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Like 1,000 a day isn't enough people.
Oh, I see.
You know,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
30,000 a month isn't enough
Because
people. If
because
you
I feel like
that's
if I was
100,000, 200,000 people at minimum.
it's yeah, it's not enough because I was looking at the numbers of, from like 2001 to 2010. We were deporting people like that back in those times, and it wasn't even as bad back then. So it should be much higher.
Yeah, same numbers.
Uh, but I do want
19 criminals.
I will get back to this topic. I kind of want to get back to the doxing situation. Did you see um one of Alex Jones' employee was murdered?
Yep. And then what? Olson also got swatted.
Yep, he got swatted as well. And Jamie White, right? Jamie, his name? Jamie White?
I can just pull it
Forgot
up.
his name. Apparently he was working late and he left the studio around midnight and somebody followed him and just when he was walking inside his house and they just like killed him. We don't know. And
All right, so you have the latest person to get swatted was Antnuts on X.
oh yeah, the Aunt Janita.
Yep. And
Yep, yep,
then Sean Farish.
yep,
He's the guy who does the Trump voice imitations.
yep.
Bearded vet. He's a
Oh, he got swatted too, huh?
yep, bearded vet got swatted.
That's
I'm
crazy.
fired up. He's actually a he's an independent journalist with law enforcement, and they ended up swatting him. His name is I'm Fired Up Too.
Okay, I don't know him.
Matt Von Swollen.
Hmm. I don't know him either.
Matt Van Swol.
Yeah, I don't. No, I don't know.
He got swatted. And you have Owen Shroyer.
Owen Shroyer.
Works
Yeah,
for Infowars.
yeah.
He got swatted. Gunther.
This seems like very much a coordinated event.
Joe Prag.
Joe Bragg.
You don't know who? Joe Pags is a huge media influencer. He's sort of like Rush Limbaugh, Alex Jones, like
Oh wow. Okay.
similar of Alex Jones, but more of Rush Limbaugh kind of
Okay.
personality with a commentaric, point of view on stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Brings
Okay.
a comedia, comedy,
Yeah.
of it. He's huge, and that's just a couple of like Cat's Herd, right? We could keep going down. Dispatch CD.
That's crazy. Oh my god.
We're up to like 25 or 30 different people now.
These people have lost their minds. And they're calling us Nazis. This is insane.
Yeah, dude, this is crazy. And I'm just going down on who got swatted, right? And then you can go through and watch all of the media videos on this stuff, right? Because most of these guys, like I said, all got cameras, right?
Yeah.
None of them got shot, right? Well, one of them
Yeah.
actually got lucky. I think it was Bearded Vet. He was the one that probably overall would have been the one that got shot because he woke
Yeah.
up from people banging on his glass door, right?
Oh no.
Actually tried to open the door to come into his house. So if that door wasn't locked and the police went in, okay,
Yeah.
probably would have opened fired on him. Okay, like he said, like he was grabbing his gun because his dog's hurt up and he thought someone was breaking into the house. When he flipped the light on, the police department started going PD, police department, police department. And he was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, I'm glad you guys didn't walk in my house. I probably would have shot you." And that's how
Yeah.
incidents happen. That's why you gotta lock your doors at night, bro. Because these cops, especially swatting incidents, dude, there's no telling they're not gonna check the handle.
Right.
The door opens, they're coming in.
That's crazy, man. Like really, what is wrong with these people? I don't get it. Yeah, I'm gonna probably call the local police department, and be like, hey, I don't know what I'll tell them, but I should call. I'm more worried about, my wife.
They need charges against these people that do this. This is the
How,
problem.
do they, and how do they not get caught? Like, do they not know who's calling them?
Yeah, they have to know. There's no way they can't. I mean, they literally track the number. There's an 11-year-old girl just the other day that was on going viral on X here with her little video stunt where she called the 911 and it's sort of like in a text sent them a thing saying I'm being kidnapped. I don't know where I'm headed to, right? And then she called him back again and was like, I'm on the highway, and then refused to pick up the phone and kept, declining the call back. Okay. And the police literally tracked the phone to the parents' house.
That's
Find out
great.
it was like some bullshit thing. Her parents ended up making them charge
Her daughter, their daughter.
their daughter, because they were like,
Good for them.
no fucking way, this is not cool.
This is just for like these stupid TikTok challenges.
I'm sure. I have no idea why she did that or what led to that, but it's just the fact that these kids are calling and turning in or saying stuff about their parents, not knowing the consequences of what the real life applications that happened here, right? Because she was like 12 or 11 years old, right? But how many resources were diverted from other situations that probably needed their direct help? Okay, because this little girl cried wolf. Because you can't ignore that.
Yeah.
Like if you actually ignored that and this little girl turned out to be kidnapped and then you found out like a week later she was murdered, all right, that would be a tinderbox of an issue. Tinderbox.
Yeah, I hope they're going after these people. And I know all the thing with, Tesla vandalism, because I was looking at what's that Texas lady? She's like super ghetto. The way she doesn't even know what she's talking about. Jasmine Crockett. She's there's literally a website I was looking at. It's called TeslaTakedown.com, and I was on the website. I'm like, because she was on this event where all these leftist people were coordinating and saying a mass takedown of Tesla, and I'm sitting there like, how is she's a sitting congresswoman of United States of America? How is she allowed to even do this stuff? Like, what is going on? All of these are coordinated event, every single one of them.
Yeah, I was trying to find something on that right now.
If you go on my page, I shared something regarding that. And I looked it up, the website, and the website is real. She was there, and she's pushing all of this stuff. I don't know if you can see. Like, here it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I got you.
Yeah, crazy, dude.
That's crazy.
And apparently,
I'm not happy with, I mean, I guess, if you look at the QAnons and they're like, oh yeah, the rest are coming, and I'm like, but you can't do it all at once because you got to get rid of all of the deep state actors, right? So it's not like you can just come out and say, all right, we're going to arrest all these people, because you got to find out all the law enforcement officers involved, all that, those people, you have to identify them. They're probably hiding under rocks right now, like covering their Q's and P's so you can't know.
Yeah.
What an infiltrator does, right? Infiltrates. They're going to be like, hi, yeah, fuck Trump, they're not going to come out and say that because they know that,
right.
That takes away from their power, their position of power. And so I'm looking at shit like this and I'm like, to me, this is an easy arrest. Okay, you're promoting terrorism.
You're promoting terrorism. Kind of like that one guy who just got suspended the other day from X. He shared an article, and in the article it was a hashtag Tesla takedown, and he had a picture of like a burning Cybertruck, and he's like in the Democratic senator or a congressman or something. Forgot
what
his
happens
name.
to all the people that do these videos online that call for this and call for like the murder of President Trump? Okay, if you want to show us that you guys are doing action and like, okay, first off, I'm kind of pissed off that you're not arresting anybody from the espionage list, but I get it. Okay, I don't like it, but I get it that might take some time to get around that list. Okay?
Right.
2, I'm not happy with the lack of arrests on this part of the side, right? So if you can't arrest the people on the Epstein list yet, but you tell me you're going to, okay? The minimum you can do for me right now is go arrest all of these protesting Antifa members, okay, right? Because they're not even out there protesting with a permit or protesting peacefully.
Yeah.
Okay? If they were out there protesting,
No, they're terrorists. They're domestic terrorists.
they're domestic terrorists. So at which point, start locking these people up. Okay, you locked up political, January 6th political prisoners for
Yep.
what,
For 4 years.
years? Okay, right? Why can't you do that to these people that are unruly? And then guess what? If the problems stop, maybe we hit the head on the nail, right?
Right.
If we go arrest all these people and show them there's consequences for the stupid ass actions, okay?
Yeah.
Right? Because at some point we can't say we're a free country and then be out here praising the people that want to destroy the country.
Yeah.
You have to explain that.
It kind of. Do you remember? So the Columbia University last year, when they were just destroying and harassing, and they barricaded the Jewish student, the whole thing with the Palestine last year.
Yep.
So you know how they started arresting a lot of them, and one of them, this guy who's here on a green card, and he was arrested, and now I think they're gonna deport him. I hope they deport him. And I had like my social media of all my friends, 99% of them, all of them, that I work with. Oh no, now Trump is arresting citizens. It's not a citizen, And I haven't had a conversation yet, and I kind of want to have this conversation with one of my buddy, explain it to him. So I'll give you my experience. So when I landed in San Jose when I first moved to the U.S. That was 11 years ago now. And they take you in the airport before you even get to leave. They take you into this area where they tell you your rights as a green card holder, because I was about to receive a green card, right? Because I came here legally on a permanent basis. So I was going to receive my green card in the mail. But this guy was reading off all these things to me, and they had an Indian guy there if he needed to, get it translated or something. One of the things, the rights he told me about, like the green card is you're kind of on a probation, right? You have 5 years you have to live without breaking any laws. You're on probation, and then you'll be able to apply for a citizenship. And he was like, this is a privilege, not a right, to own a green card. You don't have any full rights. You can't vote. You can't do a lot of things because you're not a citizen yet. You were on a visa that gave you the opportunity to receive a green card, which then, if you did good for 5 years, you can then apply for a citizenship. And if you pass everything, you will get your citizenship. Then you'll be a citizen. You have all the rights. And then this guy who were arrested, he flying the Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian flags, and doing all the terrorists, deaths to America, and so many other things. He was arrested, and then all the left-wing politics, the AOC, and all my friends. So now Trump is arrested. He's a dictator. He's arresting citizens and just pushing all this false narrative. And I just don't understand that. Is there not a law? There should be like a law that when a sitting members of the United States government outlandishly lie and push this false narrative that's causing the rest of the world to think even more that Trump really is a dictator and a Nazi because now he's arresting citizens of America, right? I think there should be some sort of penalty there. Like, that's not true. He was not a citizen He was a green card holder, and now he's deported because he broke the law.
All right, so we want to see. So this is my point. This is my point of view, my opinion only. It might not be popular. Might be popular. I don't know. Okay, I got a lot of crazy ideas out there, right?
No, I really, so I wrote this down because I wanted your opinion, because I'm like, this is just my point of view. I want to ask you your opinion. So yes, go for it.
All right. Deport everybody, regardless whether or not you mess up or not. Deport them all. Talking 30 million people. Okay? Kick them out of the country. Okay? After the fact, after we get our country back. Okay? I'm down to talk about reparations for the people that we illegally deported.
Reparations. I see.
Okay. Hey, we fucked up. You know what I mean? But I'm kind of like, let's acknowledge that we're fucking up right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And just say, hey, mistakes will happen. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. Okay. But we have a plan to make this all right. Okay. And we're really sorry if we kicked you out and you're American. We're going to make it right. Okay. You're not left out on the dirt. We're sorry you had 2 or 3 years bad experience. Sorry we stuck you in a third world country. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay. But fucking get our country back, bro. That's 100,000 deportations a day. Let's start in Maine. Okay.
I know. Maine, California.
But just start in Maine and just sweep our country. Wash, board it out. Okay. And as we get down to California, right? Now you got them pinched in there, New Mexico to California, and then you just clean up that stuff. Boom, done. Okay. All out. Afterwards, okay. Now we can focus on the 100,000, 1 million people, okay, out of the 30 million that were illegals, visa whatever, okay, and then we could talk about making it right.
So you're saying if you're here illegally, right, or you're here legally but you're on any kind of whatever visa, right?
Because you're not trying to grab those people on a visa, okay? Like you're not trying,
right? You're not trying to, but
they get wrapped up into the net, right? If they get wrapped in the net, because it's not like we're not going to do due diligence to make sure this person's here. If you're illegal, you're here illegal,
right?
It's very easy to prove that you're here now. Okay, so if we take this proven fact that you're illegal, bam, kick them out. I'm sorry. Let's make reparations for it later. And I get it. A lot of people here are scared. One, like they're like, oh, birthright citizenship. I don't agree with that shit anymore now at all. Okay, you can't be an American.
What are your views on that? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, so you're saying that you should earn the birthright citizenship instead of just
if your parents crossed here illegally.
Oh yes, I agree with that.
Here on this country, okay.
Yeah,
they're claiming birthright citizenship.
That should be allowed.
I'm not
that
fucking
should be allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you kick all these kids out, peace out. Okay, you were born in America. Okay, but but
your parents committed a crime. You were born here illegally.
Yeah, and most countries, you have
Japan
to always be that nation. Okay, like I think there's like Guatemala too, or some other things like Argentinians, right? Like you can't ever, like you're always gonna be an Argentinian, regardless whether you get, and I don't know if that's true. I know there's just a couple countries like that.
So like if you just happen to have a baby in Argentina, that baby is gonna be Argentinian baby
and American, right? Because you're American, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, now you had dual citizenship. This is where I'm at with it. When you're 18, okay, and you want to come back over to the United States after you're out of your parents' custody, okay, maybe we talk about exceptions. Okay, if we want to bring immigrants in now, okay, and talk about immigrating legally people, right, kick them all out of the country. We got a record of them. In 10, 15, 5 years when these kids turn of age, all right, them alone could apply to come back in for school visa or work.
Yeah.
Okay. Ahead of maybe somebody else. I don't know. I don't know the semantics of that. I just know that we can't give everybody citizenship in America without assimilation, bro. It's never out in the history. Find me one country that just allowed everybody in that still survived.
No, no. I mean, the best example I can give you right now is the Roman Empire.
And even them, the reason why they failed is because they did
They
not
let
make sure
the bad people in.
assimilated into Rome. Okay,
Yep.
they brought everybody in and said, "Everybody, do your shit." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody.
And that's another thing too. Like again, this might be controversial, but I really don't care. But it's a real argument made. Not all cultures are equal, and when you try to mix all of them, it's gonna cause tension. Now, if you're migrating these people from like Iraq and Afghanistan, they genuinely believe in like marrying 8 or 9. It's an actual law in Iraq that you can marry a 9-year-old girl, right? And in their culture, they have they molest. That's like everybody knows that that young kids. A lot of the time, if you go to Afghanistan, you see little young boys with men's. They're not their children. It just their, I don't know what you call it, but like it's like their pride that they carry around. Like, this is my pride that I use at nighttime or whatever. This is my fun boy toy. That culture, you're telling me that culture will fit in with American culture or a Catholic culture or a Christian culture? No, it does not fit. I mean, I can give you the best example right now. Sweden is now #1 rape capital of the world. It's for a reason, because they justify just raping the Sweden women. And every single one of the Swedish women have been raped. They've been raped by these Afghan migrants that the country just let in over the course of last 5-10 years.
Yeah, and they don't do shit about it. So you can't bring in a culture, and it's not all cultures. Okay, I know, a lot of people have problems with the Ukrainians. I went out and talked to a couple of Ukrainians, and they're more, in my opinion, American than Americans, dude. It's really like the actual refugees, like the dudes work. The dudes are like,
Yeah.
stand up. You got to fucking vote. You have to be in part of the conversation. We can't be part of the conversation here, but it breaks their heart to see Americans not be part of the conversation or even care or try about. You know what I mean?
Like, have like a sympathy for Ukraine, like that conversation.
No, it's like they're for America, right? Like they wish they had the same rights that we had and that we were giving them up. Okay? Because they don't have these rights over there. They'll say that they're a democracy. They're not. They're a dictatorship.
No. If you don't have elections, you're not you're a dictatorship.
And they can claim it all on the wars and all the stuff that they want. Okay. They've had enough time and enough opportunities, okay, to hold elections, to change out power, to change the conscript, right? This is nothing but a money laundering scheme, a weapons laundering scheme, a human trafficking laundering scheme.
Big one.
They're killing people left and right, Russia and Ukraine, millions of people.
Yeah.
Okay, like when do we as a people, all right, just come to understand and have this conversation that like all these wars, all this stuff is implemented and done by the Federal Reserve, right? By the banking systems, the banking cartels are pushing BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, okay? Like evil
people. They don't care. Okay. They don't care if the countries collapse because they're going to make their money from either this country or another country. They don't care about lives. They don't care about power and control and money.
Because they'll know they'll get it back.
Yeah, they know they're going to get back.
Yeah, because you have to come back to them for everything. They own everything.
Everything.
And this is my concern with the future is we're looking at, I'm all in for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and, that future aspect because one, it does give you back some freedom, but it also takes some freedoms away. So as we're gaining securities in the tech world, we're also losing personal freedoms and the ability to control our future, really.
Because at the end of, I do agree with that. Because at the end of as much as we can keep claiming, though, it's it's decentralized, but at the same time, it is still controlled by systems versus like gold or cash. Like you can actually, they can just cut down the set, and then what? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what? Well, I mean, what can you do at that point? Because let's say, and this is why I know we talked about this a lot earlier, was the carbon credits and the carbon sequestration and how that all
Yep.
play. You know, even right now, they're putting more bills into place, like I was telling you about Senate Bill 120. You know, it's just more
Yeah.
for them, and that's just in Alaska. You know, so think about how they run this policies through New York,
Yeah. New York is really bad. New York is really bad.
Boston, right? Like people don't understand all that, how the energy and all that stuff works in those states. You know, like Boston, for
Yeah.
example, has imported all of their liquid natural gas. I'm pretty sure it's from Russia, but they'll say they got it from like India, because what happens is
Oh
Russia
yeah, I know what
sell
happens.
their oil to somebody who will sell it
Yep.
to India, right?
And
And then
they'll sell it
India
to them.
can purchase it because we're allowed to buy from India, right? So then they'll be like, "Oh, we buy Indian oil, but it really is Russian oil." So like this
Yeah.
winter, last winter, we heated like all of Boston and shit with foreign energy from Russia.
Yeah, I was reading something. So I guess after the war started, Europe bought more energy from Russia than they ever had.
And they don't
And
buy it from Russia; they buy it from, these people over here that are third partying. That's sort of what Japan wants to do. Japan wants to be able to buy our liquid natural gas because they have other buyers that will pay more from Japan.
Mhm.
So what they'll do is they'll buy American natural gas, okay,
Yeah.
and then they'll sell it on the global market to somebody else that we can't sell to for a higher price.
Yeah. What do you think is, I mean, I don't know if anybody could predict that, but what do you think we're headed with the whole Russia-Ukraine thing? Like, how is it? It's been, was it 4 years now? How is this gonna end?
So I think they're setting up for wars all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like if we do get a peace deal with this, I think honestly, I think you just have to let UK just handle this shit, dude. Really, let's just pull the fuck out. You know what I mean? I know Trump talked with both uh, both world leaders yesterday from Ukraine and Russia, right? He talked to Putin, talked to Zelensky, and I don't see it going like. I think it's a stalemate. I think no matter whatever comes out of that midget man's mouth is a lie,
Oh
and that
my
he's
God,
not going
that
to hold to it, right? Because he says one thing and then he jumps right over to NATO and he's like,
right.
"Okay," and then NATO's like, "Oh
He's a
yeah,
puppet.
for you, okay," and I'm like, Russia doesn't even like care about like all of you. They basically got what they want. Real talk. They got the nuclear power plant. They got
Yep.
the dock.
They got the pipeline that Biden approved.
Right. So you're looking at, um, and I don't know all of this like expert. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. But
Well,
what I'm looking at is I'm like, I think that you can't put this war with Ukraine. You have to put it in the fact that you have the Middle East getting ready to go with our war with Iran.
I
Right.
know.
All the Hezbollah.
The whole, I mean, Africa is under war right now. If you look at the whole Africa, it's every small region.
Shit, right? Trump came out and Africa said that, like, hey, we're gonna have to go in war and fight this stuff because the reason why Africa's doing this right now is because of USAID. All right, they
Yep.
okay. They came out and said, hey, we exposed all these different things. Stop sending us money. If you really want to help us, okay, and you want to help Africa take over and be a better Africa, stop sending us money. Because
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're putting these people in power, and then you're allowing them to stay in power by circling these funds that they're like, okay, aid prevention for monkeys, never going to get spent on any of that stupid ass shit. Okay?
No.
Now they're going to get $200-300 million over the course of a year or two, right? And then if you look like we were just talking, I think you just said it. We're supplying the weapons on both sides. Okay, we're supplying Israel and
Yeah.
all these places with firearms, right? But all of the drones that are coming out of Iran and the Hezbollah and all the surrounding nations, that's our shit too.
Yeah.
We're literally pushing both sides of the war.
It's
Why?
literally it's kind of like USAID. We give money to USAID, then US give money to terrorist group, and those terrorists basically use that money to destroy America from within.
For
Example,
8 years,
Antifa.
for terrorism. 8 years, bro. Wrap your
That's
head around
crazy.
that. For 8
That's
years,
crazy.
your tax-paying dollars has been supporting terrorism across
Yeah.
the world. How would this even work if we didn't do that? If all of that money, you're talking billions of dollars spent on terrorism that we funded, right? If we actually had that money and that money came back to us as we the people and didn't go out to these stupid terrorist groups that are killing and destruction, how much farther would we be in humanity? How
Yeah.
much cleaner would we have? You know, like just as a lifestyle. I mean, because right now I'm scared to travel as a white dude.
Dude,
You
yeah, I
know,
feel bad for you. I'm sorry.
right? Like it's real talk. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
back in the day, I might have been able to travel all over, but today,
Isn't that crazy though, like how it is? You as a white man can't travel anywhere. You cannot wear a MAGA hat, or now Tesla is the new MAGA hat. You can't drive that. Or even if you say anything remote words, like even me, like if I wear it, I'll get attacked, right?
mm-hmm.
It's just, oh my God. I want to go back to this one thing. Remember looking at that video where it's this every single one of the Democrat were pushing the same exact script. Do you remember looking at the video a few weeks ago? It was like it started from one, then two, then five, then like 22 Democrats were pushing the same exact thing. Like we know deep state, what deep state, we're finally, starting to uncover the deep state and we know what that is. And with all the USAID stuff, I see every single Republican voting for to repeal every single of USAID stuff. Now, and I am also seeing every single, I don't know how many, do you have the number at all? Like how many Democrats voted no? I know it's most of them voted no to repeal.
I know
Um,
that. I think Lisa Murkowski voted for it, dude. Mine didn't
oh,
I'll look that up real quick. So, how many of them
okay.
repealed?
The whole USAID stuff. It really makes me wonder, like, how many Democrats in our government are actually a foreign agent. I'm like convinced Ilhan Omar is one. She's I guarantee she's like funded by Iran. She's a foreign agent. I don't know how she is, but there's no way she's not. But the stuff that I'm seeing these days that Democrats are pushing, the outlandish narrative and just like saying things so pushing the destruction of America, like how many of them are actually foreign agents? That's what I want to know. And I don't know if you'll ever find out.
I mean, you know what's really funny now that you say that? Okay, is that I heard a story, investigated it. Turns out it's 100% factual. Can't even
What's
get community comments on Facebook for it. That's how factual it is. Okay. You know, when you put something out on Facebook and it gets tagged up as fake media, okay,
yeah,
you're like, like there's a chance that it might be, like you gotta look into that, But when you put
yeah,
something and then you can't even get a community comment on it, makes me wonder. Okay. So what makes me wonder, and this isn't me like bashing anybody, 'cause I love Trump, I love Cash, I love Dan Bongino, I'm still a verdict's out on Pam Bondi, right? But like I'm here.
yeah.
I'm here for the game. I'm here for the ride. Okay. Cash Patel, the director of the FBI. Okay. All right. 100% facts.
Yep.
Okay. Do you know anything about his girlfriend?
I know who she is, but she has a really popular X account and she posts a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Who is she?
I don't know. Who is she?
She is a former Mossad intel agent.
How did you find, like, is this like an out there?
This is out there. This is real shit. She is a former Israel intelligence operative.
Interesting.
You can't ask questions about this shit though. I'm supposed to sit here, shut up, and be quiet about it because Cash Patel is going to save us.
Interesting. That's crazy.
Girlfriend, the director of the FBI, and we're as conservatives bashing what's his name that slept with the Chinese Ching Ching?
Oh, Swalwell.
Swalwell. Okay, right? So
Yeah.
Swalwell can't sleep
Fang
with a
Fang.
Chinese spy, okay, and doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. But yet we can have the director of the FBI is dating a former
That's crazy.
Israel intelligence operative.
And how long they've been dating?
I don't know. I don't know the number on that. I'd have to go look that up. But I know the guy. He probably knows it. Probably knows the day they got together, bro. Because he broke this story. It blew my mind. Because like he brought up like he showed the proof like where she was, where she went to school, how they met, you know, um, like the whole thing and how she's like not part of the. To me, I don't know if
Yeah.
you're out. Like if you're part of the CIA, bro, like you're kind of like right, like
You're part of the CIA for the
or
rest of your life.
even if you get out of the CIA, bro, I think you're still like
You never get out of the
oh,
CIA. The only way you get out of the CIA is when they kill you.
okay. So do you ever get out of the Israel intelligence operacy agencies, no matter whether you're on like the
Ooh,
either side?
actually, the fact. Okay, now that you brought that up, have you had a chance to look at the JFK files at all?
I mean, I ran through a couple of them. To me, it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, it is. There's few things that kind of stood out to me. The JFK Jr. calling Biden traitor.
Yep.
That was in 1994. Like, why he did he do that? I mean, for the little bit of history, that I went when I a long time ago did some research on him. He has done a lot of frauds. That was one of his speech that he just completely copied another somebody else's speech when because he ran for a
Right.
president before.
Yeah. He plagiarized his entire like schooling education.
Right.
Like
So he was a fraud from the get go.
class, I'm at the top of my class. I graduated first in this class over here. I went to this and did this study over here. And then a journalist was like,
Yeah.
well, you never been to that school before. You were actually in the bottom 2/3, like
The
you were
very
only
bottom few. Yeah.
third, okay, of your class. It says that you never even taken this course over here. Like how
Yeah.
the fuck do you do all this shit? You know what I mean?
So,
Uh,
yeah. So there was a few other things I
have you
noticed.
seen his speeches on the House floor? Biden's
The
speeches
new,
when he was
the
talking
old
about
speeches.
when he was talking about
Yes.
like blank mayors this, we don't need any
Yep.
blank kids.
Yep. Yep. I've seen it. Oh no. There was that. He talked about.
Inward in
Uh,
Congress, bro, with the
yep.
hard R. Okay, I'm just saying it's on video.
He and not only that. There's videos of him. Uh, he was saying, "Oh, try going to," because he was like super anti-immigration. He was like, "Oh, try going to like a local grocery store or general store in New York. Every person that you see is in there is either Indian or Middle Eastern." There's speeches on that. Um, there's just he and he was super anti south border because the drug was coming in from there. All those speeches, you were able to find all those, but then they all got scrubbed somehow. Um, yeah, there's a few other things I've noticed in the JFK files. There's one document in there where CIA was basically saying to redact all the names of Israeli special intelligence stuff, and there's one more that was saying that
Bro, you can't even
that
talk. Jews are a bad word.
then they had that in there. They were like, "Oh, we just have to take care of Kennedy because our new backers they have so much money out of the Jews." So then there's that. I mean,
How do you write that in a document, though? Okay, but then that's not like so. If you and me, why? Okay, let's talk about this word real quick because I feel like this word gets a lot of people in trouble. Jew.
yeah,
Okay, why can't we talk about Jews? That's the psyops. Why is it that when you talk about Jews, okay, this phrase comes up? Israel has the right to protect itself. Have you ever wondered about that? Have you ever wondered about that one little phrase?
yeah,
Real talk. Like That is the psyops. That is what they've been playing, okay, for decades and decades. Is Israel has the right to defend themselves. What about America's rights to defend ourselves?
Right. Yeah. What about our rights?
Is Israel America? Because if you look at it, I kind of look at it that they'll say two arguments on this point here. Is one, Israel has the right to defend itself. Okay. Two is Israel is operating America as a pit bull. We're like their dog. Okay. They put a leash around us, and
Why
nobody.
why do you think that? Like, why is it that?
Part of the banking.
Another thing, just to clear everything up, like I'm I used to not know anything about like all the stuff that's happening in the Israel, like with our government, everything. Now I'm just like, I don't think that the Jews people are like bad at all. I think it's always been the bad people in the Israeli government who are in the higher level of the power. I think they've always been bad.
I think it's one sect. I think that people, when we talk about Jews, this is the disconnection. Okay. There are 16 tribes of Jewish people.
So many. Yeah,
Okay.
there's so many tribes.
16 tribes, right? Or like that's what the Bible says, right? So if you come up from the Bible, I think it's 16 tribes. Don't quote me on that. It might be 13. It's it's like 12 to 16, somewhere in between there, okay? And they're all broke down and they're all described as their own nations. Okay, right? So if we take the same thing with Muslims, where Muslims got one thing, but you have extremist Muslims, okay? Then you have
you got Shia and Sunni, and they've been at each other's throat for millennia.
You actually break down the Jews, okay, and then you track them down into the class of Jew they are. All right, it's literally just one set of Jews, and it's that what you just said there. Jews that are in charge of the intelligence, right? The people that are in charge of the banks. That is a select few of Jews. That is not every Jew. Okay. That's like saying all Russians are communist dictators. You know what I mean? They're not.
Yeah.
Okay? That's like saying
Russian people. Yeah, the actual Russian people, they love America.
Okay. Like that's like saying all Chinese are part of the CCP.
Right.
Can't do that. It's one specific set of Chinese people that are causing these problems. Okay.
Right.
One specific set of Russians that are causing these problems. It's one specific set of Jewish people that are living in Israel.
Problem. Yeah.
Okay, because they're not Israelites, right? When's the last time you ever heard of an Israelite? They're not. They're a Jewish sect from some other place, right? And I might be wrong on that. I don't know everything, but from what I understand, they made these words out so that way we couldn't have a uncomfortable conversation because nobody wants to put the name out there, because the second you do that, now I'm an
you're anti-Semite.
Anti-Semite, right? Or I'm pro-Semite, or like, why do we have to have any of these words? Why can't I be an American? Why can't we?
We're just having a conversation that I noticed few things. Yeah.
Okay, and if I notice that the Jews are always behind some shit, okay, and it's like, that can't be a coincidence. When are we going to stop allowing that to be the coincidence? And then you're saying, well, no, I'm not hating on Jews. Okay. But you have this Jewish guy over here that's a self-proclaimed proud Jewish man that pushes his Jewish heritage above everything else. Okay. To me, that you might not be American, bro. You might be a globalist.
Right.
Okay. But we can't have this talk because all of the money that goes out on our tax-paying dollars that we send over to Israel, let's say we send them $1 billion a year. That $1 billion doesn't stay in Israel. That $1 billion comes back into many forms of nonprofits that gets pushed back into our political fucking sphere of influence that supports both Democrats and Republicans. Okay. They're not picking a side of the fence here. They're buying America.
Yeah.
Can't talk about that because you won't allow me to ask the questions of why we just don't put them as a foreign country.
Right.
You would solve a lot of the problems that I have, a lot of the accusations and the anger that I get over this, right, would be solved if you just admitted that they were a foreign country in a foreign agency. Okay, we
Yeah.
can still protect them. We can still help them out. I don't want Israel to burn. You know what I mean? There's a lot of historical value there. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a lot of religious value there. Okay, I don't want to burn it down. I don't want them to die. I don't want people to, nobody should have the right to, everybody has the right to attack anybody they want. That's kind of
Yeah.
okay. And if you were able to defend yourself, you should be able to defend yourself.
Right.
But I think that's kind of also the problem that we've had in the last 200 years is that we've no longer changed borders. Borders are just cemented in place now.
What do you mean by that?
We've never taken a country. Why does Germany still exist? Roman days, country would have been gone. Until Roman days, that country would have been annihilated. So real talk, why is Germany still around? Why is Poland still around? Why is Ireland still around?
Yeah.
They've all been conquered.
Yeah.
They've all been changed, and now we just keep the names the same.
Well, maybe it'll happen this time when Trump will take Greenland. I wonder if that's gonna happen.
I mean, but even then, the name won't change.
Name won't change. It'll become. Do you think it'll become like a union territory, or it'll be like 53rd state?
What's so great about the Gulf of America? That's the first time the country has came and said, "Putting my name on this."
That's I know, dude. That was
Rome. Do you think Rome rolled up into some of these cities and then just was like, "I like your flag. I'm gonna keep that flag.
That's mine now."
No,
that was. I'm not gonna lie. That was such a badass.
And the next thing you know, your flags, Roman flags everywhere, bro.
Everywhere.
And then to make sure you knew the Romans were there, they put crosses on the fucking road with all the people that survived on crucifix, right, for miles.
Yeah.
Hundreds of miles, right? Like we've all heard those stories. That's real shit. They used to literally be like, "Hey, we conquered this territory. These were all the people that disobeyed us." So as you're walking into our newly conquered territory, aka could have been Germany, right? Why didn't we do that? Right? Because we're humane, we're more civilized now.
Well, what we're doing so there's I think I always butcher his name. It's in Gad Sod. You know who I'm talking about?
Look it up real quick. I've never
Gad Sod. I think that's what's or Gal Sod. Oh, Gad Sod. Yes, that's what his name. It's GADSAD. So he has really good books, by the way. There's one of his books. He talks about here. Let me bring it. It's right here.
Yeah, you can't even talk about Hitler, bro.
So there's one of his books. Gatsod. It's called The Parasitic Mind. And it says how infectious ideas are killing common sense. Is one of those ideas he talked about is, there's one thing that's empathy, but what we have here in America is suicidal empathy. We're like so empathetic that we're committing a generational of American suicide, destroying our own country in the name of empathy. You know what's funny though? Rest of the world knows about these weakness of America and they use that against it. Like even in India, they talk about it. They have a special word for this in China. A buddy was telling me like, oh, how Americans are so afraid to not be being empathetic, or they're gonna be labeled as like a Nazi or a racist or whatever. So they take other countries. They take advantage of that. African countries take advantage as in Central America, they take advantage. So we're like committing suicidal. Yeah, we're committing suicide as a nation by pushing all those crazy left-wing narrative in the name of empathy. It's kind of crazy.
You nailed that right on the head. I can't even, you explained that so well. That's exactly where we're at. I mean,
that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. How do you change that though? How do you change the narrative? When
I honestly don't know.
That's the fight we're fighting right now is that we have this narrative and we're hitting it with empathy. And to me, the only way to fight empathy is with fear. But I don't want to fear people. I don't want to black pill people. But you almost have to black pill them to get them to wake up from.
I think. Well, it didn't just start from nowhere. I think it kind of started from the whole idea that they pushed that love is love, right? They started pushing this into young kids, into Disney movies, Hallmark, or all these people, celebrities. No, love is love. We love everybody, right? And now you have young men who trading their testosterone into becoming this. I was gonna say a word. I don't even care. Empathetical retard, and right, they're just
Yeah,
trading their
man.
manhood. Because I think
Use
to
the
get
right word, bro. Okay, that's how they get us. They get us scared with using words that fit the definition, right? And
right,
this is why I've been telling people, like, they're like, you can't say faggot. I think I can say faggot. You know, it's like you can't say retard. Nah, I think I can say retard. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
be scared to say these words with repercussions to come back on us because that's what they
yeah,
want. They want you to
yeah,
say what's on your mind. They want you to be scared to call out these Tesla freaks. Okay.
yeah.
They want you to be scared to call out the libtards. Okay. Right. They want you to be scared to use all of these words and stuff
All
because
those words.
you're a bad man now. You're a
There's
like you know you're Indian, bro. You're talking to a white supremacist Nazi right now, apparently. Okay. And
oh my God, don't shoot me.
dude, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like it's really
Yeah, no, you're right.
where we're going
It's
and how we've gotten here.
the fact that, like, no, me and you were having this intellectual conversation. If the fact that even the people who are independent to have this kind of conversation are, it's sometime afraid to even use those words, is it's a proof how valid these tactics are and how they work. But yeah, this is exactly how this slowly taking, a lot of people's manhood away. And when you take that away, you're basically making that person an emotional woman. And so, which leads to, us being so empathetic that we're committing suicide as a nation. A whole generation of men are just, now it's just a freaking a woman who's on her periods all the time as soon as somebody says Trump, freaking out. I think I don't know what would be the correct definition of where we need to go back to, but I think the only thing I would say, just if you're a man, just be a man, freaking be a man. Don't be afraid of all these feminists. Go ask out a girl. Don't be afraid of asking out a girl. And you're going to have manhood urges.
don't even take it to there, man. Don't be afraid to call out other men. Okay?
Exactly. Don't be
to call out
afraid.
politicians. Get into that uncomfortable, position to take our manhood back, to take that alpha back, to, you know what I mean? And you're coming from a country, India, you know what I mean? In my opinion, kind of soft. You know what I mean? Like Indians are kind of soft people, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
I've never met honestly, I've never met like a rude Indian. Like when you first meet an Indian person, okay, from India, because I've met maybe 12 or 15 different Indians in your life, right? You are the most kind, hospitable people, okay, until you piss them off, right? Like if I come here and try to piss you off, right? Once you do flip, bro, you fucking flip, okay? But until then, you guys are down to have conversations and talk about anything, okay?
Yeah.
Let's get to understand this situation here. But then if you keep pushing me and pushing them, they will flip. You know what I mean? But
yeah, they will.
It takes a lot to piss an Indian person off. It really does. It takes a lot. You have to work at it, okay?
Yeah, I think there's few reasons behind that, and one of the reasons in India, it's just like in nature to see like a guest or like somebody who's like, I guess, not from India, especially when they're in somebody else's country, to see them as like, hey, like I'm a guest in this guy's country, and as a common sense, as most people do need to realize, but a lot of these immigrants that are moving to America, they don't have that kind of common sense that when you move to somebody's country, you're a guest in that country, and you need to be. It's like a privilege for you to be there, and you need to be thankful, and so that's one of the natures that a lot of Indians have. They're just actively just very thankful. That's why whenever you do meet like another Indian person, you just like, oh, they're very nice. Yeah, they are nice because they are very appreciative. Um,
Very
like all
similar.
my
Every family I've ever been to, bro, all invited me to dinner.
yeah, yeah, that sounds about right.
I met a guy one time, like 15-minute conversation. We were talking, right? He loved what I was doing. He loved what the conversations we were having. Okay, immediately was like, "Well, what are you doing tonight? You want to come over for dinner?" Like, dude, I don't even know you. Bro. You know what I mean? But hey,
Yeah.
cool, let's have dinner. I
Yeah.
do meet a lot of people. Some Koreans up here. I met some Koreans the same way. And it
Yeah.
really is crazy because the last thing I'm doing to you as a white person, dude, and meeting you out in the street, dog, is to be like, yo, hey, come back to my house and we're having steaks and eggs. You know what I mean? Like, no, bro. Like, I got to get to know people. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know your
Right.
story, but it's like, all right, well, I guess if you're gonna invite me over for dinner, I gotta be polite and go back and outreach. Because
Yeah.
and that's something I've been working on. Is to be more, I guess, culturally friendly, because I'm not like a
Yeah.
racist, equal opportunity hater over here, bro. I mean, I
Yeah.
hate white people like I hate on black people, like Asians, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you do something stupid, bro. I'm going to call you out.
Right.
If you're not, helping push the needle to the status quo and make the world better, I'm going to call you out. Okay.
Yeah.
If we're not holding, if you're just voting and you're not doing anything else, I'm going to call you out.
Yeah.
Okay? Because to me, then you're a retard. Yeah. Okay. Like, let's stop being retarded about shit. Okay. And let's move back to this logical error of morals, values, logics, and fight against it. My problem is that no matter who I talk to and no matter what groups you get into, everybody sort of wants this 100% allegiancy. And I think that's what's killing the country right now. Honestly, why you're seeing the divide, why you're seeing the left win, why you're seeing the right fracture and shit, is because we can't just sit here to agree on 50% of the shit. It's like, if you don't agree with me on 100% of all the issues, because you and me have disagreed on some stuff before.
Yeah, we disagree on so many things.
Yeah, but we have to be able to have a conversation and talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to distrust you or push you out in the corner because of your viewpoint on this. It's like, great. Okay, we have to have understanding, because all we need to do to make a better society is, one, we need to agree on 50% of the shit. Okay. And that's basically morals, ethics, values, logic, and reason. Okay. If we can just agree on these 4 points and then put that towards 50% of the policies, energy, economics, education, make a difference. Okay. We can worry about the rest of the shit that we disagree with later. You know what I mean? We can literally cross those bridges when they get there, but that's focusing on every little bridge isn't changing the nation. Is actually dividing us. It's actually keeping us in the little groups that they want us in, because they want us in these tribal mannerisms where we're set in this like certain groups. Okay, where like for X example, I hang out with the creative content dudes. I hang out with the rhino removal projects. I hang out with the backdoor groups, the Alaska First group, the Rev. I hang out with a bunch of these different communities, and all these communities are a little different. They're pushing one little bit of a different idea. And in some of these groups, if you say one thing against it, right, bam, you're out.
You're out. Yeah.
5% of the shit you didn't agree with.
You're out. You're Nazi.
Yeah, or you're anti,
or whatever, or anti-Semite,
or you know what I mean? Like, you're a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Like, bro, no, I'm not. I'm just a dude sitting here trying to ask questions.
Right.
I'm just a dude that doesn't understand it all. So how do we know if we don't know? How am I supposed to learn if I can't ask questions? If the information is not readily available for me to grab and understand, it's all been skewed, then I have to go to other people that have done research and studies on this to get their point of view, and then you come up and you don't agree with them one time, right? If you push back against their narrative one time, if you don't agree to just spout out everything they force or tell you to say, okay, bam, cut the curve, bam. You know what I mean? Oh, you're a communist. You're not MAGA. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, I know you've heard that shit before, right? Where they're like, oh, you can't be MAGA. You can't, because you don't fucking like one vaccine now. Now you can't be Maha, bro. Right? Like, you go get one, and it's like, what? No, I did my research. I did what was the best, for my child or my wife. And that's what I believe. And as long as you believe it, we should be cool with that shit.
Yeah.
You know, regardless whether or not I don't agree with the vaccines you put or whatever, right? Why is that
Yeah.
a deal breaker from us to make America great again?